The truth behind the Ridge disappearances. Before you ever hike alone again, smash subscribe, drop a comment, and remember, the next missing person case I cover might be you. By the time deputies found the car, the forest had already swallowed the sound. A silver Subaru sat crooked at the end of a narrow service road in Colorado's Black Ridge National Forest, headlights still on, driver's door hanging open. Emma Cole's phone was on the front seat, screen cracked, 9/11 still on the display, timer frozen at 3 minutes, 41 seconds. It was just after midnight. The air was cold enough that their breath fogged, but the engine ticked with leftover heat. No blood, no drag marks, no obvious struggle. Just a half-zipped backpack in the dirt, boot prints leading into the trees, and then nothing. The kind of nothing that makes grown officers look at each other and quietly wish they'd called in sick. In the incident room later, they would label it missing adult, possible foul play. Around here, locals would call it what it was, another case tied to the unmarked trail people pretended didn't exist. That afternoon had started out so ordinary it hurt. Emma was 28, an ICU nurse from Denver, the kind of person who meal prepped on Sundays and ran half marathons for fun. She drove up for a solo weekend, craving silence. Well-worn trail, blue blazes on the trees, other hikers' voices fading behind her. After 4 hours, she reached a fork that didn't exist on the map. The right path was wide, safe, and boring. The left was a faint line vanishing into thicker pines, marked only by a weathered sign someone had nailed crookedly to a tree. No service, no rescue, no second chances. Emma laughed under her breath, assuming it was some edgy trail joke, and took the left. The forest changed fast. The air felt heavier, the quiet more deliberate. She crossed over a narrow ray. On a makeshift bridge, a dead tree laid from one bank to the other. Halfway across, she heard metal bite into wood. She glanced back. An older man stood on the far side, gray beard, mud-stained flannel, gloves dark with sap. In his hands, a woodsman's maul. He watched her with flat, pale eyes, then sank the tool into the trunk she was standing on, just behind her heels. "What are you doing?" she snapped, heart hammering. He didn't answer. He just pulled the maul free, set it aside, and said, almost bored, "You don't come back this way. Trail only goes one direction now." Something in his tone made her move. She rushed the last few steps and jumped onto the far bank. When she turned, he had already hooked a rusted chain to the tree and was dragging it sideways, letting it roll into the ravine with a crash that echoed up the gorge. "You can't do that," she called. "That was my way back." The man glanced up at her like she was an insect on glass. "Should have stayed on the painted path," he said. "Folks like you never listen. The ridge keeps what it's owed." Then he turned and walked calmly into the trees. Emma told herself he was just a territorial local, maybe drunk, maybe unwell. She checked her phone. One bar flickered and vanished. No signal. She kept hiking, telling herself there had to be another way down. An hour later, she found the camp. It sat in a shallow clearing, too tidy to be random, too wrong to be official. No tent, no cooler, no chairs, just a blackened ring of stones, carefully stacked into little towers. Tree trunks were carved with symbols that weren't letters or numbers, just deep, deliberate gouges. Bits of clothing hung from branches by twine. A single boot, the torn sleeve of a red jacket, a baseball cap darkened by weather. And then she saw the photos. They were clipped to a line between two trees, flapping lazily in the faint breeze. Printouts from a regular home printer, different faces, different ages, all smiling at trailheads, on summits, beside cars. Someone had circled each date in red ink. Under Emma's breath, a phrase slipped out that she'd later repeat to detectives. "This is not a campsite. This is a scoreboard." Behind her, a twig snapped. Emma spun. A figure ducked behind a tree. Another shadow moved to her left. The same heavy, measured footsteps she knew weren't made by deer or elk. She heard a low whistle, answered by another, farther off, like they were signaling positions. Emma backed away, hands shaking as she fumbled for her phone. No service. She hit 911 anyway and started talking, hoping the call would register when a signal returned. "My name is Emma Cole," she whispered, voice cracking. "I'm in Black Ridge off an unmarked trail near mile marker." A man's voice cut through the trees, closer now. "Battery at 10%. Better talk fast, Emma." She hadn't told anyone her name out here. In the incident room hours later, Sheriff Ryan Meyer hit play on the recovered 911 audio. Static, Emma's breathing, the rustle of branches, her whisper. "They're hunting in teams. They have pictures of other hikers. Please, please, just ping my phone and..." Footsteps. A man's calm drawl, clear as if he was standing in the room with them. "Put the phone down, Emma. You already stepped off the safe trail. You don't get 2 warnings." The recording ended in a scream and a sharp thud. Ryan froze. Every deputy turned to look at him. They all knew that voice. It belonged to someone who'd worn their uniform for 15 years. They played the 911 recording 5 more times before anyone spoke. In the harsh fluorescent light of the incident room, the voice on the tape felt louder than any of them. "Run." "It again," Sheriff Ryan Meyer said, even though he didn't need to. He already knew. The tech hesitated. "Sheriff, we're not set up for a full forensic match yet, but just off-ear recognition. It's him. It's Briggs. Deputy Alan Briggs. 15 years on the job. First through the door on search warrants. First to volunteer for backcountry searches. The same man sitting at the far end of the table, arms crossed, jaw tight, staring at the wall like he wasn't hearing any of it." On the tape, Emma's breathing crackled through the speakers. Then that calm drawl. "Put the phone down, Emma. You already stepped off the safe trail. You don't get 2 warnings." Everyone turned to Briggs in unison. He shook his head slowly. "That isn't me," he said. "Sheriff, you've known me since I was 21. That could be any guy in the county with a sinus infection and a bad attitude." Ryan wanted to believe him. He remembered Briggs risking frostbite to carry an injured teenager down an icy ridge, remembered him working double shifts during fires. But Ryan also remembered something else. 3 other missing person files tied to Black Ridge over the last 8 years, all logged by Briggs, all closed as likely voluntary disappearance. "Then you won't mind handing over your body cam and your truck GPS," Ryan said quietly. "And you won't mind sitting this one out." Briggs's eyes flashed, just for a second. Then he forced a smile that didn't reach them. "Whatever you need, Sheriff." By noon, they had 2 things they hadn't had the night before: a rough ping on Emma's last cell signal and a leak. Anonymous comments started popping up under the first local news article about Emma's disappearance. Same phrasing, different usernames. "Check your own department." "Ask who runs off-trail searches alone." "Ask who tells families to stop hoping." The comments were taken down within hours, but screenshots had already been saved. Ryan and rookie deputy Claire Ruiz hiked in from the service road that afternoon, moving fast, following the coordinates from Emma's phone. The forest swallowed the sound of the highway in less than a minute. Just them, the crunch of boots, and the tight coil in Ryan's stomach. "She really left the main trail way back," Claire said, checking the handheld GPS. "You ever come out here before?" "Once," Ryan answered. 2019. College kid went missing. Overnight storm wiped his tracks. We never found him." "Who ran that search?" "Briggs did," Ryan said. He heard how that sounded as soon as he said it. They reached a shallow clearing just as the sun started to sink, the light turning sharp and orange through the pines. Everything Emma had described was there. The stacked stones, the carved symbols, the clothes on the branches, stiff with weather and time. And the photos. Claire stepped closer to the line strung between the trees. "Oh my God!" Faces stared back at them. A woman with a backpack and a golden retriever. A middle-aged man in a fleece holding trekking poles. A teenage boy at a trailhead sign. Each photo had a date written underneath, some going back nearly a decade. None of those names appeared in any of their closed missing person files. Ryan's throat went dry. He was about to tell Claire to start bagging everything when he saw the last photo on the line. The ink was still fresh. Emma leaning into her Subaru's open hatch at the trailhead, stuffing her backpack. The angle was low, taken from another parked vehicle. In the reflection of the rear window, barely visible, was a man's blurred outline leaning on a patrol truck. Ryan didn't recognize the face, but he recognized the badge on the man's chest and the Black Ridge Sheriff's star on the truck door behind him. Sheriff Ryan stared at the photo until the edges blurred. The man reflected in. Emma's rear window wasn't Briggs. The build was wrong, the posture too rigid. But the uniform was unmistakable. Someone in their department had scouted Emma before she ever stepped foot on the trail. Claire swallowed hard. Sheriff, whoever's doing this isn't just a local. They've been using the badge to move in and out without suspicion. Ryan forced himself to breathe. Bag everything. Nothing leaves this clearing except with us. They packed evidence until dusk bled into full darkness. The air turned colder, too suddenly for comfort. Claire swept her beam across the trees. We should head back, before... A whistle echoed in the woods, the same pattern Emma described on the 911 call. One short, one long, answered by another, farther off. Ryan's heart kicked into a sprint. Move, now! They started back toward the ridge, lights shaking with each step. Branches cracked behind them. Not animals, footsteps, more than one. Whoever had been hunting Emma was now trailing them. Claire whispered, Sheriff, they're trying to flank us. Stay with me. His voice was low, steady. They don't want a gunfight. They want isolation. The forest thinned as they climbed toward the ridge, but the footsteps grew bolder. No more pretense of stealth. Someone was whistling again, closer now. Another whistler farther left, cutting off an escape route. Ryan clicked his radio. Dispatch, this is Meyer. We need immediate units on the service road. Static. Dead. Claire's eyes widened. They're jamming us. The moment she said it, they saw the shape through the trees. A fallen pine spanning the ravine, just wide enough to walk. Their only way out. It was the same type of trap Emma had been forced to use. Go, Ryan urged. Claire crossed first, gripping the trunk, boots slipping on moss. Ryan followed, not daring to look down. Behind them, the footsteps accelerated. 3 miles. Why before pursuers closing in? Claire jumped to the far bank. Ryan was halfway across when a beam of light swept over him. Someone on the other side pointing a flashlight straight at his face. He shielded his eyes. Sheriff Meyer, a voice called calmly. Come on back. You've already seen too much. Ryan recognized the voice immediately. Deputy Briggs stepped into the open, holding a shotgun low, not raised, not threatening, but blocking the exit intentionally. His face was expressionless, not angry, not panicked, just resolved. Briggs, Ryan said, keeping his balance on the trunk. Step aside. I can't, Briggs replied. You weren't supposed to find the clearing. You weren't supposed to hear that recording. You sure as hell weren't supposed to drag Claire into this. Behind Ryan, the pursuers reached the start of the trunk. Their breathing was heavy, deliberate. They weren't wearing uniforms. They weren't trying to hide their identities. These weren't random locals. These were people who had been out here many times before. It's bigger than you think, Briggs said. This ridge, it belongs to people who don't want rescuers interfering. You call it missing person cases. They call it debt. He stepped closer to the edge. Move aside, Sheriff. Nobody needs to get hurt. Ryan took one step forward, still balancing on the tree. Where is Emma? Briggs hesitated. the first crack in his voice all day. She ran, farther than most. I don't know if she made it out. It wasn't the answer Ryan needed, but it was enough to spark a decision. He lunged to the far bank, dove into the brush beside Claire, and yelled, "Run!" They sprinted blindly through the dark, branches slapping their faces, boots sliding on loose dirt. Behind them, Briggs shouted orders, and the other men crashed through the trees in pursuit. But Ryan knew this forest better than most of them. He had hiked rescues here for years. They broke through a thicket, stumbled onto the old fire road, and didn't stop running until the beams of responding patrol trucks flooded the trail. It too took 30 officers and a state forensic team the entire night to search the ridge. By dawn, Briggs and the unknown men were gone. Campsites dismantled, trails erased. No footprints except the deputies. No sign of Emma. But the photos recovered from the clearing matched 7 unsolved disappearances across 3 states. The sheriff's department made a statement. "We believe an organized group has been operating in the Black Ridge region for years. Evidence suggests they used informal trails, local knowledge, and law enforcement impersonation to avoid detection. They didn't use the word cult. They didn't use the word ring. But the country understood. Ryan still hikes the ridge sometimes, quietly, always alone. He brings a camera. He brings a flashlight. He brings Emma's photo. Her case remains open. The clearing has never been found again. And hikers still leave comments online, whispering about whistles in the trees at dusk, about footsteps matching their pace, about the feeling of being watched from between the pines. Some say it's superstition. Some say it's paranoia. Ryan knows better, because 3 months after the case was closed to the public, another Subaru was found on the service road. Headlights on, driver's door open, backpack in the dirt, and pinned to the steering wheel, a printed photo of Emma Cole. If you thought this story ended here, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe